Today, we're going to be talking about a player who has hit some of the clutchest shots in NBA history. In his career, he has won 7 NBA championships, which is the most by any player since the 1960 Celtics. He played for 4 different franchises, and success followed him everywhere he went. He was never a star player, but he impacted the game in a variety of ways as a role player, and often closed out the fourth quarter for his team. If you couldn't tell by the thumbnail, the player we're going to be talking about is Robert Horry. Let's travel back and take a look at his NBA career. Robert Horry began his career with the Houston Rockets after being selected with the 11th overall pick in the '92 draft. He contributed to winning right away as he started 79 games for a 55-win Rockets team. Horry put up good numbers in his rookie season, averaging 10 points, 5 rebounds, and a block. His versatile play, along with his role on the second-best team in the West, earned him a spot on the all-rookie second team. The Rockets played the Clippers this season and knocked them out in 5 games. They went on to play the Seattle Supersonics next round and lost in Game 7 by 3. The next season, Robert Horry would continue to average right around 10 points and 5 rebounds, and he started in 81 games. But in February, something strange would happen to his career. Horry and teammate Matt Bullard were traded to the Pistons for Sean Elliott, but the trade was voided after Sean Elliott failed his physical. Robert Horry ended up staying in Houston, and that would end up being a very good thing for his career. The Rockets finished as the 2 seed again and were in for a deep playoff push. They beat the Blazers, Suns, and Jazz to advance to the NBA Finals, where they met the New York Knicks. The series was very tight and went to 7 games. The Rockets won by 6, and Robert Horry would win his first NBA championship in only his second season in the league. He was the 3rd leading scorer for the Rockets in the finals and led the team in assists. The next season, Horry increased his 3-point shooting, and the Rockets would earn the 6th seed. They went on to have one of the biggest underdog stories in playoff history. Houston would play Karl Malone and the 3-seeded Utah Jazz in the first round, and they won in 6 games. Then, they beat the number 2 seed Seattle Supersonics in the conference semifinals in a tight 7-game series. The Rockets were now up against the number 1 seed Spurs. In Game 1, the Rockets were down 2 late in the game, but Robert Horry hit a game-winning 3 with 6 seconds left. Houston would fight the rest of the series and won 6 games. They proceeded to make the finals for the 2nd straight year and would face a young Magic team led by Shaq and Penny. Houston swept Orlando, and Robert Horry would have an amazing final series. He played an insane 47 minutes a game and stuffed the stat sheet the whole series. Horry also had some very impressive moments in the '95 finals. In Game 2, he recorded 7 steals in a game, a record still held to this day. And in Game 4, he had 21 points and 13 rebounds to close out the series. This would earn him his 2nd championship. The following season would be his last with Houston. Robert Horry put up the best statistical season of his career, but the Rockets could not repeat the success they had the last 2 seasons. They won in the first round, but then got swept by the Seattle Supersonics. Then, in the 1996 offseason, Robert Horry was traded to Phoenix. It was a 5-player deal that brought Charles Barkley to Houston. Horry would play 32 games with the Suns and was averaging a career-low 22 minutes a game. He was frustrated with his lack of playing time and got into an argument with his head coach, Danny Ainge. In the middle of a game during a timeout, Robert Horry swore at Ainge and threw a towel at him, which prompted the Suns to suspend him for 2 games. Phoenix then decided to trade Horry to the Los Angeles Lakers. The 1998 season would be Robert Horry's first full season with the Lakers, and he averaged 30 minutes a game. He started 71 games and averaged the 2nd most steals, blocks, and rebounds on the team. The Lakers won 61 games this year and made it all the way to the conference finals. They played the Utah Jazz, but were swept in the series. The next year, the Lakers would make it to the 2nd round, but would be swept by the eventual champion, San Antonio Spurs. In the 2000 season, the Lakers won 67 games, and Robert Horry played 76 games, coming off the bench in every game. The Lakers then made it through the first 2 rounds with relative ease. But the conference finals would be a different story. They would play a tough Portland team and win in Game 7 behind an incredible comeback. Los Angeles would now face Indiana in the finals, and they proceeded to win the series in 6 games. Robert Horry averaged 9 points and 5 rebounds in the series, and would now have his 3rd championship. The next year, Robert Horry and the Lakers would win 56 games, and they made it to the NBA Finals without losing a single game. In the finals, the Lakers would play a Philadelphia 76ers team that featured the season MVP, Allen Iverson. Robert Horry came up big in Game 3 and scored 12 points in the 4th quarter. And with 47 seconds left in the game, he hit a dagger 3 to help seal a Lakers win. Los Angeles won the next 2 games and won the series 4-1. Robert Horry averaged 8 points and 5 rebounds in the finals and was now a 4-time NBA champion. Next season, Robert Horry continued his consistent play, and he had to fill in to start 23 games. But when it got time for the playoffs, he ended up starting 14 of the Lakers' 19 postseason games. Robert Horry averaged 9 points and 8 rebounds in the playoffs and continued his clutch shot making. In the first round, the Lakers were matched up against the Trailblazers. In Game 3 of the series, the Lakers were down 91-89. Kobe Bryant drove and passed the ball out to Robert Horry. Robert Horry drilled a game-winning 3 with 2 seconds left, and this shot would also win the series for the Lakers. The Lakers then played the Spurs and won in 5 games. They would meet the Kings in the conference finals and would go on to play an extremely competitive series. The Lakers won Game 1 and Robert Horry put up a good stat line. Sacramento would carve out a 6-point win in Game 2, but Robert Horry pulled down a massive 20 rebounds. The Kings took Game 3 on the road, but Game 4 would be a different story. The Lakers would find themselves down by 2 points with 12 seconds left in the game. Kobe took a shot to tie the game and missed it. Then, Shaq got a rebound and attempted a shot, and he missed too. Vlade Divac knocked the rebound away and the ball went right to Horry. He shot a 3 at the buzzer and it went down, sinking the Kings and tying the series. Each team won another game, then played a crucial Game 7. Robert Horry had 16 points and 12 rebounds, and the Lakers won, advancing to a 3rd straight finals. Los Angeles played the Nets and swept them. Robert Horry played another good series and got his 5th championship ring. The next year would be the last season Horry played in LA, and he started 26 games this season. In March, Los Angeles played Indiana, and with the game tied at 95, Robert Horry casually hit a game-winning 3 in his usual fashion. The Lakers were attempting to go to their 4th straight finals this year, but would lose in the second round to the Spurs. Robert Horry was now 33, and in the 2003 offseason, he signed with the San Antonio Spurs. Horry's first season with the Spurs, his minutes were significantly less than what they were the prior year in LA. His averages would decline because of this, but the Spurs would still have a successful season. They won 57 games and made it to the second round in the playoffs. But then they lost in 6 games to LA and were knocked out by Robert Horry's former team. But next season, both Horry and the Spurs would have a much better season. He started 16 games in the regular season, and the Spurs won 59 games. They went on to play the 7-seeded Nuggets in the first round. The Spurs lost Game 1, but then won 4 straight, and Horry averaged 10 points a game in the series. Next round, they played the Supersonics and won in 6 games, advancing to the conference finals. They met the Phoenix Suns and would win the series in 5 games, overcoming an unreal 5-game stretch from Amari Stoudemire. Horry put up a solid stat line and hit 9 threes in the series. Now, the Spurs would play the reigning champion Detroit Pistons in the NBA Finals. The Spurs' first 2 games were in San Antonio, and they would win them both. But when they traveled back to Detroit for the next 2 games, the Pistons won both, and the series was now tied 2-2. Game 5 would be a turning point in the series, and it went down to the wire. At the end of the 3rd quarter, the Spurs were up 64-63. Robert Horry only had 3 points up to this point, but that would change in the 4th. He scored 13 points in the 4th quarter, but the game would end up being tied at 89, and the teams would go to overtime. With 10 seconds left, the Spurs would have possession of the ball and were down 2 points. Horry inbounded the ball to Ginobili, who then passed it back to Horry, and he nailed a 25-foot 3 to win the game for the Spurs. They were up 3-2 in the series, but lost the next game in Detroit, and were now headed for a Game 7. In Game 7, the teams were tied at the end of the 3rd. But then, San Antonio outscored Detroit by 7 points in the 4th, and would win the 2005 NBA championship. Robert Horry scored 15 points in the closeout game, and was now a 6-time NBA champion. The Spurs followed up the season by winning 63 games, but would end up losing in the second round to the Mavericks. The Spurs would not disappoint again the next season, and they were ready to make a deep playoff push. They played the Nuggets in the first round and won in 5 games. And in Game 4, Robert Horry would hit a game-winning 3 with 30 seconds left to put the Spurs up 4. The Spurs played Phoenix in the next round and won in 6 games. Robert Horry did not play in the last 2 games because he received a flagrant foul and ejection from Game 4 and was sentenced to 2-game suspension. San Antonio then beat the Jazz in the conference finals and were back in the NBA Finals. This time they played against the Cleveland Cavs, led by a 22-year-old LeBron James. Robert Horry played below his normal standards in the series, but nonetheless the Spurs still swept the Cavs. Robert Horry now received his 7th and final NBA title. Now 37 years old, Horry's next season with San Antonio would be his last in the NBA. He averaged career lows in points, minutes, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. The Spurs would make it to the conference finals this season, but Robert Horry's contribution to their success was very minor. He only averaged 1.5 points in the playoffs, and after the season decided to retire from the NBA. The career of Robert Horry shows just how impactful a good role player can be on a team. He never missed the playoffs in his career, and his play helped his teams win 7 NBA titles. Some critics of Horry say that he was only successful because he played with NBA legends such as Kobe, Shaq, Hakeem, and Tim Duncan. But it is no coincidence that Robert Horry has 7 rings. His clutch shot making and versatility has helped propel his teams to tremendous amounts of winning. And as always, if you like this video and want to see more NBA content, make sure you subscribe to my channel.